Great. So as I mentioned, thanks so much for joining today. Chris, if you could go to the next slide. So the purpose of today's session is to introduce you to the Turing-Roche Partnership Predictive Modeling Funding Call. I know we're joined by hopefully some interested academics, as well as some Roche colleagues. So this is just a very quick agenda for today's session. We'll be sharing some background information on the partnership and the funding call, as well as introducing some work that is going on at Roche. So perhaps this may be useful for researchers to think about this in the context of potential applications. And these are Roche colleagues that researchers could potentially collaborate with if successful. The session will formally end at 12:30 p.m. But if we haven't got round to all of the questions and you do have a burning question, then we do have a 15-minute spillover. Chris, next slide, thanks. And also just wanted to briefly introduce our team. This is a picture of the whole team. The blue outlines are Roche and the green outline is for Turing. And today I'm joined by everyone on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, due to the last-minute date change, we've lost a few members who are due to join, but we have Chris Harbron, who is the deputy lead for the partnership, our senior postdoc Rohan, and our project manager Alvaro, who has had wisdom tooth surgery, so he will be on the chat only. And yeah, that's everyone here today. So I'll now hand over to Chris, who will give some background on the partnership for those of you who are less familiar.
Great, thanks very much, Vicky. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. Yeah, so I'm Chris Harbron, so I'm one of the leads of the partnership from the Roche side. And just sort of say a few words about the strategic partnership we have with Turing. So this has now been going, it's a 5-year partnership, which has now been going for about a year or so. And we have this overall North Star, which is in blue here, to enable the generation of insights to better understand patients' disease heterogeneity is relevant to the clinical outcomes at an unprecedented level of precision in order to improve clinical care. So I think you'd hopefully you can buy into that as an objective, and we also see it's a very ambitious thing. We realise we're not going to achieve in one go. And I sort of thinking about this is we've got a whole range of different data sources which are enabling, which will help us to get there, as well as a whole range of different techniques, methodologies which are coming on board and being developed, which would also help to in there. And the way we sort of breaking this down is we sort of have a number of different individual projects which are going to help support us, help develop our expertise in using particular data sets, in deploying new technologies in order to take us towards our overall North Star, which we hope to be achieving. So within this, what we're sort of thinking with the partnership is we're going to have a number of different themes. So the first theme which we had, we started last year, was one around structured missingness. And the way that we ran this, and some of you may have been involved with this, we had a number of workshops at the back end of last year, followed by a funding call. And then from the result of that, we sort of kicked off a couple of projects, which are just starting now in real earnest, which will address specific features within the areas of structured missingness. We've now chosen as our next theme the idea around predictive modelling. We're really hoping to do something quite similar to this, which we're kicking off today. We've got a funding call which has already been ongoing. We're hoping to hold a workshop fairly soon next month with it addressing this. And again, from this, we hope to get a number of different projects which will help to take us forwards in different aspects within predictive modelling. And we're going to have sort of hopefully a range of projects covering both smaller pilot projects, which is given an initial exploration of this area, as well as main projects, which will go more deeper and do a deeper dive and sort of really get some fundamental research into this area. And just to say on top of these as well, we're going to have we also have ongoing activities around community. We've got a lot of community activities, for example, sort of a monthly knowledge share series. And we're going to have a couple more initiatives on that going out over the next couple of months. So keep your eye out for those. And just to say, this is our first 2 themes. As we go through the partnership, we hope that there'll be other themes exploring other areas which we'll take forward as well in future years. And I suppose sort of one of the questions is predictive modelling in the context of uncertainty and heterogeneity. And sort of why did we come on this theme and think it was so important? And particularly, we've got some sub-themes in that, which is areas we really want to be focusing on. One is, I think it's sort of, I'd hope you'd agree that it's very central to our North Star. It's really about understanding patient heterogeneity. And actually, prediction is sort of one of their, a real common application of sort of this understanding and real desired outcome, whether this be sort of predicting people's outcomes under different treatments, which is really sort of facilitating personalized healthcare, or really sort of understanding different people's prognostics and sort of helping to determine treatments based upon that. We also recognize that health data is heterogeneous and noisy. This is both sort of the input data, it's typically got all manner of features within it. The relationships within health data are extremely complex, so we're not going to get perfect models all the time. So it's sort of an area there. But we also recognise this is a really enormous area. We're not going to cover the whole of predictive modelling with it, sadly, within this partnership. So we chose on sort of specific sub-themes, which are really important to us that we thought were worth focusing on. First one around this is around generalization, despite data heterogeneity. And this is the idea that when we develop a predictive model, we want this to be widely applicable. We want it to be able to use it in different populations, different regions around the world, from people who are using different data sources, maybe collected from clinical trials, maybe collected from real world data, maybe used in a clinic, real things there. And also even sort of things like changes over time can sort of be disruptive to models. So how can we make our models robust to all these different kinds of changes which can go on? A second area which is really important around personalised healthcare is prediction uncertainty. From a predictive model, it's fairly straightforward a lot of the time to get a prediction. But in order for that to be useful, we need to understand the uncertainty attached to that prediction. Have some sort of confidence, have some sort of context we're able to put that prediction in, which will really guide how much credence, how much importance is given to that towards a patient. And then a third area was an area which is sort of getting a lot of, quite rightly, getting a lot of focus at the moment, is around explainability and fairness for AI in healthcare. We're well aware that sort of you can easily, within generating models, to generate bias, whether that be intended, unintended, can just creep through from the data. And we need to sort of avoid that and really actively make sure we're avoiding that in our models. And also the explainability side, or interpretability, is important. If we're going to have these models taken, be adopted more widely, then we need to have them being models which can be interpreted, that we can build trust in them, give people confidence they can work in real life. So what I've got over the next few slides is just some case studies which are going to be given by some of my Roche colleagues, really addressing each of these and just showing the way sort of Roche is thinking about these as problems. Hopefully it just gives you some idea of what we're hoping to get out of these projects. So the first speaker which we've got is Ning, who's with data scientist within the Pharma Development Organization. And she's going to sort of give us a few words about generalization and what that means in her work.
Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for having me today. So today I'll be talking about model generalizability in clinical trial development. So I want to start the presentation by introducing what we do as a data scientist in clinical development. As data scientists in pharma industry and in clinical research, we work on different types of data, such as clinical reports, genomic data, and digital data. And in summary, what we do every day is trying to translate the data into clinical insight and eventually translate them into actions to deliver the right treatment to the right patient at the right time. So those actions include target discovery to identify the next drug target or the next combination, It also includes patient selection to identify the patient population that may be benefit to a drug, and also include experimental design to design the clinical trials to test out experimental products. And the generalizability of models is actually very, very crucial in clinical development, and it's very crucial in all the activities I mentioned in the last slide. This is because we all know that technology and clinical practice are always evolving. If we compare what a clinic is run today to what does it look like from 10 years ago, we'll realize that there's so much differences in data collection, in the supportive care, etc. Therefore, in clinical development, we couldn't assume that the future data is the same as what the data we have in hand, because we know the future is always different. Taking the pandemic as an example, if we compare data collected from pre and post-pandemic, we'll see more in-office visit data pre-pandemic, and nowadays we see more virtual data collection. We see different blood or CT test schedule, and also, unfortunately, we see difference in mortality rate when we compare the data recently collected to the pre-pandemic data. Therefore, building generalizable model is very, very crucial in clinical development, because we know that the future will be different, and we need to build something that is robust and still applicable in the future. In addition to building generalizable model to accommodate the evolving technology and evolving clinical practice, another use case is actually in the precision medicine field. Yeah, so in precision medicine, we all know that there are a lot of efforts during the past few years where we try to deliver personalized healthcare solutions based on individuals' profile. Although it's very, very appealing for an individual to receive treatment or healthcare solution based on its personalized profile, we also see some challenges over there from development perspective or from global access perspective. For example, you probably saw a number of examples that for highly personalized healthcare, the development and patient costs could be very, very expensive because of the small population. And also, we see information overwhelm for physicians and patients. And also, there are potential inequality in global access, because some of the regions may not have certain access to some advanced technology or advanced treatment. Therefore, as a clinical researcher, data science and also as a data scientist in the pharma industry, one of our job is trying to expand the patient population for certain precision medicine. Yeah, so like we're working hard to kind of like develop those individualized treatment solutions. At the same time, we try to maximize the patient population that may be benefit from this treatment solution. Therefore, kind of like how can we generalize those solutions is very crucial in our daily job. And within Roche, there are a number of efforts towards model generalizability. I want to show two examples here that I got involved too. The first one is about how we evaluate models in a more realistic setup. So in this manuscript, actually, we discussed that like in the case that we know the future trial is different than today's trial, a traditional cross-validation based on random split may not be a good idea, because it kind of assumes that the future data is coming from the same distribution as the training data. In the paper, we show that a more like fit-for-purpose cross-validation may provide more objective performance estimate of a model. So in the paper, we actually propose that if we are trying to inform a future clinical trial, then when doing the cross-validation using legacy data, we might do like leave one study out cross-validation rather than random split, which can give us a more objective estimation of the performance. Yeah, and in addition to like evaluating models more objectively, we also have a number of ongoing efforts trying to build a more generalizable model. Yeah, one example is we try to look at different ways to define the split node for tree-based methods. For example, we try to come up with like study-specific metrics when doing the node split, rather than using all the data points to define the split. And hopefully that will like make sure the model is more generalizable. So with that, I think I will close my presentation, and thank you so much for your attention. And I'm pretty sure that in your team, there are a lot of new ideas and new research areas. We're more than happy to chat with you, and we look forward for future collaborations. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you, Ning. Yeah, and then our next case study is from Pao Herrera, who's actually, pleased to say, joined us on the call today. So thanks very much, Pao. So Pao's from the diabetes care part of the organisation, so different part of the organisation. He'll talk a little bit about the personalised healthcare dimension.
Good morning. My name is Pau Herrero, and on behalf of Roche Diabetes Care, it is my pleasure to present a use case related to the topic predictive modeling for heterogeneous health data, which is about applying machine learning to diabetes care. Let me first start by introducing what is diabetes and the challenges associated to it. Diabetes is a metabolic chronic disease which is characterized by elevated blood glucose levels. And this is mainly due to a lack of endogenous insulin production. We usually refer to this type of diabetes, type 1 diabetes, or due to the inability of the body to use the endogenous insulin. And this type of diabetes is referred to as type 2 diabetes. Current therapies for managing diabetes consist on lifestyle interventions, such as diet and physical exercise, oral medications, and the administration of exogenous insulin together with monitoring of glucose levels. Unfortunately, still a significant proportion of people living with diabetes do not reach the therapeutic goals. And purely controlled diabetes severely affects the health and quality of life of these people living with this disease. Among many complications, diabetes is the major cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attack, stroke, and lower limb amputation. Diabetes has epidemic proportions, and it affects over 400 million people worldwide. And not only that, this number is increasing every year. Furthermore, a significant proportion of these people are undiagnosed, which makes things even more challenging. It is estimated that the global direct health cost of diabetes it's around 760 billion, and in particular in the UK, 10% of the entire NHS budget is dedicated to the treatment of diabetes. But why is it so challenging to manage diabetes? First of all, there are over 40 variables that are known to affect blood glucose levels. And among these variables, we can find food intake, so meal size, meal composition, alcohol consumption. We can find medication. Physical exercise has a huge impact on glucose levels, but as well physiological stress, illness, temperature. In addition, we have a huge inter-subject variability. So every day is different. So and as well, a huge inter-subject variability. So we have enormous differences between subjects, which makes very difficult to personalize the therapy. In addition, we have access to a vast amount of data, but this data is usually very heterogeneous. For instance, we have access to electronic health records. We have access to medical devices data, such as glucose meters, continuous glucose monitors, insulin pumps, and smart pens. We also have electronic logbooks, usually installed on smartphones. And more recently, we also have data coming from consumer electronic devices, such as activity monitors. And finally, we don't need to forget the human factors. So the adherence to the therapy, even if the therapy is very good, if the person with diabetes is not following the advice from the healthcare professional, then of course it's not going to be useful. So there is something also that is very important to keep in mind. The proposal we have at Roche is the utilization of machine learning to tackle this problem. So we all know that we have a plethora of clinical data that, together with the significant advances we've seen in computing power and machine learning, all this has opened the door to the development of data-driven models for diabetes care. For instance, potential applications of these models include the risk of developing diabetes, the diagnosis of the disease, the diagnosis and risk prediction of the diabetes-related complications, as well as predicting glucose levels, which might be very useful for alerting the subject with diabetes, as well for medication management. Hence, at Roche, we are looking for solutions which are effective, explainable, and trustworthy to the practitioners and regulators. Thanks a lot for your attention, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Great.
Good morning. My name is Paurero.
Great. Thank you, Pal. And then finally, we've got Melanie, who's a statistician. She used to lead our Canadian Office for Statistics, who's recently sort of moved to working with our regulatory and policy group, looking at some of the European regulatory activity, which is being developed at the moment. And she's been sort of going across the whole of Roche, so both sort of the diagnostics and the pharmaceutical part, to get an overview of that. And she'll say a little bit about what we're thinking about for fairness and explainability.
We see a future with equitable access to healthcare, providing improved quality of life and cure with innovative artificial intelligence solutions. Hello, everyone. I'm Melanie. I'm a biostatistician working with European regulatory policy at Roche in our Canadian office. Apologies that I can't join you all live today, but I am so glad to have this opportunity to share some perspectives about artificial intelligence development, and specifically predictive modeling. In Europe, the Artificial Intelligence Act is currently under review as draft legislation. This is a horizontal, cross-sectional in nature. It applies to artificial intelligence used in farming, finance, transport, and healthcare. It's all-encompassing proposed legislation. This proposal would regulate all uses of AI in Europe with the aim to ensure that European society can really trust AI. It uses a risk-tiered approach ranging from unacceptable to high to low risk, with regulatory requirements appropriate to each tier. From a pharmaceutical perspective at Roche, we're thinking about the impact AI has on patients and healthcare. AI is hard to define and can be as explainable as a logistic regression and as unexplainable as a neural network. How AI tools assist in healthcare could present high risk to a patient. For example, personalized healthcare treatment decisions, or low risk, such as the fitness tracker with the number of steps that an MS patient might be able to take unassisted. Many AI tools will assist in decisions for patients by having a human in the loop. I can look at my fitness tracker and see my number of steps and make decisions. For moving AI forward, we need the balance of explainability of AI development, of the predictive models you'll be developing, and the risk to the patient, and how much the human is in the loop. The AI Act will require us to create robust AI and predictive models that are responsible, transparent, and ethical. There are challenges in AI development as we focus on how resulting tools and algorithms impact patients. Let me share some thoughts on these challenges with you, and we can continue to engage in discussions around these challenges. Let me start with a big challenge in the pharmaceutical industry: patient privacy. Patient privacy is essential in our data. Patient privacy will be part of the AI Act, and certain policies around model validation will require sharing of data. As we aim for transparency, sharing data creates multiple patient privacy issues. Perhaps synthetic data generated using AI is one solution to maintaining patient privacy that we need to further explore and understand as we strive for transparency in our test and validation data. Another consideration is bias in the data that we use for predictive modeling. There's bias in our healthcare system, and it shows up in the data. And we use these data to test, train, and validate our predictive models. So for example, women present differently than men when having a heart attack. So using data to develop a predictive heart attack algorithm, would it favor men and miss female events? As developers, we have that responsibility to assess and mitigate the bias in our data. Thirdly, risk. The AI Act will look for transparency in development and data, as well as risk to the patient. So AI developed using a neural network, for example, to better understand and predict yields in manufacturing may not be explainable. It falls in this black box category of AI, but it has low risk to an individual patient receiving drug. However, a regression model that's explainable to most undergraduate students might be used to assess a patient's severity of disease, and it could be decided to offer the patient a toxic chemotherapy, so thereby becoming a high-risk situation. Complex AI algorithms and techniques do not necessarily translate to high risk, and we need to ensure that we're quantifying the risk and the uncertainty in our predictions. How do we do that well? What oversight will Europe require across industries and AI tools, regardless of explainability and risk to the patient? We don't know the answer to that yet, but we're all already doing a lot of this without the AI Act. The AI Act will govern these aspects of drug development. Patient privacy, bias, risk to the patient are just some of the examples. Here at Roche, we're influencing Europe to consider these aspects of AI development and look to experts like you to strive for robust AI tools and solutions to help patients. So, what do regulations in AI mean for developers, for prediction models? I think the spirit of the AI Act involves doing the right thing. Broadly speaking, the AI Act is focused on ensuring society can trust a future decisive technology like artificial intelligence. Hence so much focus on risk. Our call to action is to balance the explainability of the algorithms we use with the risk to the patient, all while using robust methods that minimize bias, maintain patient privacy in the data. We'll use and drive forward solutions for healthcare for equitable access for all, so that we can improve quality of life and cure disease. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great session.
So great, thank you, Melanie. So hopefully that's those case studies have just given you an idea of sort of the breadth of activity, the type of things which Roche is looking for, and some of the things we're thinking about already. I'm really hoping these project calls can start to help to address with you in my work. So I'll hand back to Vicky now, who'll take you through the funding call and what we're doing there.
Thanks so much, Chris. Yeah, this should be about 5 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So as Chris mentioned, the funding call has now been open for a couple of weeks, and it will remain open till the 14th of November. All the information is on the open call document website that I just posted in the chat. So I'm not saying anything that's not in that, but I thought I'd just kind of take you through some key points. So we are proposals that we're accepting for funding must specify one of those sub-themes that we just went through. And we will not be considering proposals outside of the topic. And the funding is going to be presented in 2 routes. So you can apply for main projects, which will fund between 12 to 18 months. And these are mainly designed for collaborations between senior academics. We envision a collaboration of 2 to 3 PIs plus a postdoc. But the scheme of this can be decided by applicants as long as you meet the funding limit, so it doesn't need to be that kind of format. And the pilot projects are designed for early career researchers seeking first leadership experience. We're envisioning 6-month projects with a fully dedicated postdoc, but again, that can vary as long as you meet the funding limit. And the funding limits, obviously you can apply for less, are 300,000 for main projects. So we're looking to fund around 2 at this level, and 75,000 for the pilot projects. And again, we're aiming to fund around 2 of those at that level. And please note in the funding scheme, the overheads will be shared. So 50% are paid to the university and 50% are retained by Turing. So be aware that when asking for funding, the total amount, the value including 100% overheads, does not exceed the funding limit, so 300,000 or 75,000. And to apply, you must be based at a university or research institute, not in a commercial company. And collaboration is really key. So we're hoping to receive applications that have cross-institute collaboration, involve academics of different research backgrounds. And as we'll be doing with the structured missingness projects that Chris mentioned earlier, we'll be encouraging any cross-project collaboration and explore any synergies between funded projects as well. And I'll talk a bit more about how we're supporting this collaboration in the application process in the next few slides. Although it is possible to discuss about your proposals with Roche, they cannot be listed as a formal collaborator because they come under commercial organization. So only after the funding is awarded will kind of Roche participate more actively. And any questions around kind of overhead finances, please flag to our project manager, who unfortunately can't be here today, but his email address is at the bottom. And then also just some more logistics on this slide as well. So this is not a typical grant in which the funds are given to the university for them to use. This scheme works under a secondment model. So applicants must propose the cost of PIs and postdocs associated to the project. And then if granted, Turing will second those individuals and pay their universities for the agreed FTE. So please also check if the university, your university is able to recruit postdocs under this scheme, in which the postdoc will first be recruited by the university, and then once recruited, they'll be seconded to Turing. So terms and conditions for individual secondments can be discussed, but they will follow the general conditions established in the Turing template. And you can find this terms and conditions document in the application portal when submitting your proposal. So you can download these, discuss them with your universities in advance. This is really important just to flag any kind of important implications, potential problems. So yeah, we're really keen for you to discuss this with your institution now. So if you are awarded the funds, then the administrative processes are smoother. So we'll also require a letter from the university agreeing with the secondment terms and the FTE. So be sure that the candidates can commit for the proposed FTE. So some individuals may already be at 100%, so they wouldn't be able to commit more of their time. And in the same letter, the university must also agree with the proposed costs. So we recommend talking to your finance department to check it before applying, so you're sure that the finance scheme will work. And the university must also agree with the general terms and conditions of the open call, specifically taking into account our IP terms and some small requirements for publication. And those are on the open call document. Again, sounds a bit complicated, but if you do have any questions, then do feel free to email our project manager, whose email is at the bottom of the slide. Next slide, thanks, Chris. So once the call has closed, we'll be doing a quick eligibility check, and eligible applications will be undergoing review by senior members from the Turing and Roche partnership team, chaired by Chris Holmes, who is the lead of Turing's Health and Medical Sciences program. We'll be looking for scientific novelty and timeliness, so presenting novel elements, methods, observations, contemporary challenges faced, and kind of demonstrating clear utility for scientific progression. So feasibility, so discussing about implementation, a good description and awareness of possible blockers to projects execution, and clear timelines. So we will be asking for a very small timeline template, which again is in the application portal. The contribution to the partnership's North Star, so of understanding patient and disease heterogeneity. So looking for projects that will significantly contribute to the pathway of understanding this. Utilizing the partnership and the benefit of your collaborative team. So we're looking to hear from you how the project will directly benefit from being part of the Turing and the Roche networks. If you're doing a cross-institution project, what specific benefits will be better addressed through multiple academic institutions, and kind of added value of combined expertise of co-investigators, and also value for money. So resources requested are appropriate, given the kind of scope of the project. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, collaboration is something really, really key for us. And as Chris mentioned, something we ran for the structured missingness call last year. We ran 3 virtual workshops where we convened a group of researchers to explore ideas in this area and meet others that they could potentially put a research proposal together with. With predictive modeling, we know this area is obviously a lot more mature, so probably needs kind of less scoping. But we still wanted to have the opportunity to bring people together, brainstorm ideas, and potentially find collaborators. We're now going to host this in person at the Turing, but due to kind of space constraints and we want to ensure productive discussions, we are having a short application process for the workshops. This is via FlexiGrant, which is the same system you would use to submit your funding application. So the application process for the workshops is a bit about why you want to attend, your current research, and we'll be ensuring at the workshop it's a mix of career stages and institutions. So it's quite an easy application process. As we realize this is a small number of people who can actually attend the workshop, we'll also be running 2 virtual co-working sessions via Zoom on the 20th and the 28th of October. These are informal events, so they'll be for workshop attendees to follow up to co-work together if they want to continue collaborating after the event. But there'll also be an opportunity for anyone else to come along, so people who didn't attend the workshop, as a space to potentially meet others and other collaborators. Or you're welcome to use these calls as actually just quiet time to work on a proposal, as we know it can sometimes be hard to schedule that focus time. And you can register for these events simply via Zoom. And just to stress, all of these events are optional, whilst we'd love you to join them, and we hope they'll make the application process a bit more interesting and exciting. You don't need to attend any of these events or apply to attend any of them to apply for the funding call. That is open for you regardless. And yeah, last slide. So key dates. So as mentioned, the call is open till the 14th of November. For the workshop, to apply to attend that, the applications will be open till the 26th of September. And then we'll be notifying successful applications for the workshop on the 27th of September, with the workshop taking place on the 11th of October, and those co-working sessions afterwards as mentioned. In terms of the call, we'll be communicating final decisions just before Christmas. And then we foresee the project starting on the 1st of March. So I think that is everything from us. I will just stop recording.